This is going to be your guide to the ultimate breeding base in Palworld, because the Terraria update gives us a huge change to breeding with the Large Egg Incubator at level 47. So now we don't need electricity anymore, and you also don't have to worry about temperatures and stuff like that. You just put an egg in and it hatches in 11.5 minutes once you have the technology upgraded. So it's twice as slow as the electronic one. That doesn't really matter because you can hatch 10 eggs at a time, and you can also just put down as many as you want. So this is going to free up PAL slots on your base, and I didn't play around with the large-scale egg incubator too much, so I don't know how many PALs you needed to efficiently run like 6 at the same time. I imagine it's more than 1 PAL or something. And also the resources are going to be a lot more expensive on this. So yeah, just ignore all that, and then you can drop eggs in and you don't have to worry about it. Also, we have more changes to breeding because Braloha, while at base, shortens the time it takes PALs assigned to the breeding farm to produce eggs. So now we need one of these, and if you have electricity generating PALs, well, you have to give up those slots for the Braloha and then also other breeding. So now you can run 7 breeding stations no problem inside of your base, and I know people say, well, you can change the settings and increase that, but what about people that want to play on vanilla and not use effective cheat codes of faster item generation or having more PALs in the base so they can do everything quicker? Also, if you're on a server, you're going to have those limitations. So if a guide isn't playing by vanilla rules, it's not going to help out most people. Now I was able to fit all of these inside the base on just one level. You can build like multiple levels and platforms and still make it fit, but having it fit inside the base is pretty cool. PAL expeditions are needed. Like, you just need to be running 4 of these all day, every day, non-stop for the resources at all of your bases. So you can actually kind of like fit it into a wall or a cliff, and that works out pretty well. And then you just get into crazy egg production and breeding. Now, you can still have an electricity generator and some battery banks to run a PAL disassembler. So you just like swap out the Braloha for your electric PAL, and then you can just have that working. You can build this with some oil as well, because at some point you're going to have to breed a ton of Braloha to condense it and then get the maximum effect from its skill. So if you already have Braloha on the base that are breeding, or using it for some kind of other breeding chain, then you can pop an oil rig down while you have electricity generation going, and you can get a little bit of extra resources that way. And the thing about the large incubator versus the electric incubator is that the gate is not the amount of time it takes to hatch the eggs, but the amount of time it takes to obtain the eggs. So I already broke that down in my Welaska Coralum farming video, so I'm just going to like splice that in right here. Okay, let's do some quick napkin math. So it takes roughly 690 seconds to hatch a full batch of eggs. And according to testing, 2 philanthropists and a max Braloha is 1 minute 26 seconds. So that's going to be 86, which means we can get 8 eggs per egg hatching cycle. But it's going to be different than that, because if I leave the base for more than 12 minutes, I'm coming back to more than 8 eggs, and then you can just put them between like multiple large hatchers. So it's not going to change the time too much. But let's say you can get 8 eggs per breeding station. Let's say we're going for max 7 breeding stations. And that's going to be like every 12 minutes, so times 5-ish. So we're getting 200 eggs per hour. Let's round that up to 300 eggs per hour, and we're getting like 2.5 Coralum each. 750 Coralum, mostly AFK. So you're not really losing too much efficiency because of the time that it takes to produce eggs, and then all you need are just 2 large incubators in every breeding pen. So you can leave for a bit of time, come back, the max amount of eggs that a breeding pen can have is 20, so you just fill up both of them, and then you leave and you come back. So it's not, oh, I'm losing 6 minutes per egg, I'm losing 6 minutes per batch of 20 eggs if I'm playing perfectly and hatching exactly as the timer's expiring. And the thing is, unless you are super duper speedrunning a condensed PAL, you might not even need the Braloha passive, because if you come back to the base like every 45 minutes to an hour just to kind of do some egg hatching, and you always have 20 eggs waiting for you, then the Braloha doesn't really matter. So that's why I'm saying, like, okay, it's worth it building with some oil around, that way you can just have the option to pivot and then maybe refine some oil if you're not doing like massive min-maxing super duper fast breeding. And when you look at the numbers, it's pretty insane. At the like fastest maximum breeding, we're able to get a PAL egg every 90 seconds. So that means we get the max 20 in 30 minutes. So we're getting 40 eggs per hour per station times 7. That's over 250 eggs per hour. So what that kind of shows is like, yeah, maybe you don't need the Braloha, or instead of having to worry about Philanthropist for the fastest breeding, you just put in a Braloha instead, and then you just do it slightly slower, and it's not really that much of a problem. Also, having 7 breeding stations means you can just kind of come back whenever, and then, yeah, I'll just hatch all 140 eggs at once, and then come back in 12 minutes when they're all done. So it's one of those things where, like, now you don't have to worry about, like, hard camping this if you want to get really good pals in a short amount of time, because it's just so condensed and it's so optimized right now, which is pretty awesome. And then that means, like, is 7 actually overkill? You don't have to always have all of these running at max, which someone made a comment that actually made a good point. I use Pangolit or Pinking Lux for electricity since applied technique books are available enough to actually use now. In the downtime from generating, they can help Braloha run a berry wheat plantation and also run a mill to help keep your cake stocked and from the downtime from that. Which kind of brings like a new angle into this. So like, yeah, if you're not running 7, you can actually do a lot with the extra free slots because, okay, Braloha has planting and gathering. So we can actually run berries and wheats for the cake generation. I've always been team buy everything you need for the cakes except for honey, but if you have a ranch set up somewhere else on one of your other bases because you need it for other items, yeah, you just throw a bee guard down there and then you end up with enough honey anyways. Also, there's now PAL passives that make things cheaper, so it's not like that much of a strain to buy the cakes or like buy the ingredients, cook the cakes, and then import them into your breeding base. You make it 9,000 cakes, you got no problems. But yeah, Panking Lux is cracked when you think about it because we have watering, electricity generation, handiwork, and transporting. So that's everything we need to run a farm as well as generate a little bit of electricity. Also with the transporting, that means we can even run a ranch inside of here. So if you want to build like extra layers, you can make everything fit kind of nice. But then like, oh, I build a ranch here, I put some storage next to it, and then we can get our honey inside the base if we're only having 6 breeding setups at once. Now, even though the technique manuals are kind of rare, we can fully condense this Panking pretty easily because we have a crazy breeding setup, so that's one thing you can dedicate a lot of breeding to. And then we have Braloha, which is going to do planting and gathering, and then we find a bee guard, and now the base is going to have like its own different efficiency if you want that. So Panking can generate electricity to run the oil rig. If you actually care about the wheat and berry production, you can focus on that. I also think that means there's going to be some other efficiency things you need to do for the base. So you put the electricity generation by here. So Panking is generating electricity, then if an item drops, they transport it. And you don't really have too much downtime. That also opens up the oil generation even more. I really disagree with the farming, but if you want to, you can inside of this base. And it's also the thing about it, you can change it out however you're feeling or whatever your needs are. It's not like, oh, I built 7 breeding stations, that's the only thing I can do here and nothing else. So there's a lot of options you have with this new design, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. And also, please, like the video if it helps out, share with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. Give your thoughts about, like, the best, most optimized base. Now, if you're going for raw production, I think I kind of nailed it with this one, but there's also a few other things you can kind of squeak in and get away with. And I think another important thing about the base is keeping everything in this kind of layout. Having the dimensional PAL storage is really good just to kind of like hold off on the rejects because it all goes into your box. And the recommendation is you just kind of keep your first couple of boxes open, that we can just keep dumping PALs into there and then sorting it later. But if you try to do your sorting early on and then you just hatch like 30 PALs, it's going to go in and mess up all of your stuff by just dropping random PALs in places. So that's very convenient. Same thing on having the fixed assignment nearby, so you can just kind of adjust the PALs as you need to and update things as you go. Put multiple feed boxes around, that way you don't have to worry about PALs running too far for their food and dropping a little bit of efficiency. And then everything else just kind of seems like it works pretty well. Maybe don't have the hot spring too far away from the electricity generation and the ranch as well. Again, that was kind of like in the earlier design before I changed this up a little bit. But overall, oh yeah, hot spring can fit right here, right? Oh, look at that. Perfect. There's also a little bit more with the comments. So yeah, the big thing is like you can't turn wheat straight into a cake. You need the flour, so the Panking can also run a mill for your cakes. That's really good. And then a large fishing pond for some extra ore and Walaska ignis. You can do that as well, which is an interesting take, because, like, yeah, if there's just downtime and you have a handiwork pal, they can fish up stuff for you, which is pretty nice. And the fishing loot table is pretty good, so once again, this base gives you a lot of options depending on what you just want to fill for, or if you're noticing downtime, or if you're not breeding 7 things at once. You can just kind of do whatever and get a little bit of extra production out of this base. And then the big thing is just like giga super turbo pal farming. And if you watch my Corlum guide, this base is also really good for breeding pals to butcher, which didn't really feel that viable before, but now since it's just like, oh yeah, set it, forget it, I come back to 140 eggs, they hatch in 12 minutes, I don't have to worry about any electricity generation or anything, and then I can just butcher all of them and get those resources. Really good passive item generation if you're missing something as well, if you're not just going for like crazy competitive breeding. So yeah, please comment your thoughts down below. I want to know what you think of this base, if you think it's missing anything, or how the overall production is going. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.